So have you ever wondered what Chinese characters would be like without sound components? Alright, you probably don't even know they had such a thing. Well, yeah, most Chinese characters do not really work the way people think. Aside from the base set of components and some exceptions, around 80% of them have one component or shape from a small set that have to do with the overall meaning, and one that hints at the overall sound. This proves very useful in making, reading, writing, and learning characters. Very useful. So I was thinking, what if we don't do all that? I introduced to you Pictographic-Hanzi. All components now have to do with their roots in an abstracted version of what was once a pictograph, a drawing resembling its related meaning. Their combinations then either have to have a meaning association with a new character, form a larger picture to depict, or have some kind of meta association with another character. No sound components allowed here. So horse and mother being just mother instead of your horse of a mother? Foul. Illegal. I have painstakingly gone and compiled every distinct remaining shape in Hanzi I could still find, only to discover that after I was done that Z.Tools already did that for me. Thanks for nothing, Google. I can't ever find anything on there anymore. After, I have assigned them meanings, sometimes the same, sometimes archaic, other times somewhat different but related, and other times I just assign arbitrary meanings based on the shape. Then I created a bunch more variants and custom pictographs and started combining them into a unique set of characters, a few lone characters from Chinese aside. So this thing? It doesn't mean self anymore. There was a sound loan, as the two words at the time sounded similar. It used to depict a nose, so it means nose in Picto-Han. No need for this added sound component to write the original nose character. The custom ones were created with both the modern Hanzi style and resemblance in mind, as opposed to old ones which just wanted to write more easily. So these resemble the original pictographs more. Most of the car brushstrokes are the same, but there exist a few stylistic differences like vertical lines in a row, a new round shape in the pill component, slight variations in angles and the like, or fusing lines together in ways not seen before. If you're not into the chonky characters, then I'm also working on Flowscript, where the stroke order is different and components are written in one or two flowy round strokes. Check out the skewed assortment of animals, like this little axolotl, or the neat bee. Please save the bees, please save the bees. We can't forget the classic cat, or how about a wee little worm? No? You might be more of a fan of random stationary objects, like a signpost, or a spray can. There are a lot of variants too with new meanings, like add a line to seeing and it becomes staring. Picto-Han has custom pictographs for everyone. Of course, we can combine them. Target plus meaning? It's the point. Forked path plus possible. It's an option, silly. If we count variants, there are about 1,400 to 1,500 components and currently about 7,300 characters. We're aiming for 8,000 to 10,000. That may sound like a lot, but English adults recognize like 20,000 words to 35,000 words, and one dictionary counted about 170,000 words in use. That's not counting the words not in it or archaic ones. While most characters are boring associated compounds, some form a larger picture and they're quite neat. There's one with a caring hand plus tears coming out of an eye. It's a hand wiping away tears. It means consoling. This one has lightning plus a roof plus fire. It depicts a roof on fire. It means emergency. Unlike other languages, each character only has one general meaning in the form of a physical meaning and an abstract meaning. People may then use them however they like to refer to whatever they like, as long as it makes sense in the context it's uttered in. The same goes for how one can put multiple characters in a row to form compositional compound words. They're ambiguous, but they'll make sense in the situations used in. Only set phrases are allowed to not make sense in the context they're set in. Any more specific meanings, then, are dependent on the community of speakers, its slang and terminology. These extended meanings are not expected to be known for general speakers. Finally, the vocabulary, while based on English, makes different distinctions. It merges some concepts into one and others are split. Meanwhile, the nuances differ as well. The language has a lot of different words for cute. Cute as in the base protective instinct it comes from. Cute as in like, aww. Or maybe cute as in attractive, or maybe cute as in the opposite of tough and intimidating. You name it. But Lana, what language are you going to write with them? Of course, it's not just a silly set of characters, it's a fully fledged language of its own. A written language, called Standardized International Mon4Han4. But Lana, how do I speak it? That's the fun part. You don't. Like emoji, interface icons, or street signs, every reader pronounces it with their own equivalent sounds, in their own language. The characters directly represent its own language, rather than representing a spoken language. The exception is that hard-to-write words and most names are written in a sound script. These are either a modified form of Korean Hangul, as that one is the most practical, or this much cooler, super awesome, cool Sarin alphabet that I made based on Japanese hiragana, which is a lot less efficient, but shh. Given that it's a language, it of course comes with this spooky thing called grammar. But don't fear, it's pretty doable. When it comes to compound words, what you have to remember is that you start with the most fundamental thing it fits first, and then work your way down to more specifics. Then place some relationship character in between if needed. So a park bench becomes bench of park. Most compound words will start with a classifier. Unlike Chinese, where they're used for counting groups like flock of sheep or a school of fish, these classifier characters get some broad category the next character will relate to. Classifier characters get a line at the bottom, as otherwise they would be indistinguishable from their non-classifier counterpart. The broadest classifiers like agent, entity, space, relationship, manner, quality, etc., called base classifiers, are the most important. Because for abstract concepts, there's often no different character for something like the concept of an investigation versus the concept of the act of investigating. One other way to figure this out is through word order. Picto-Han has a large set of characters that link what you're making a statement about to the thing you're stating about it, called a copula. English has ones like is, seems, appears, etc. There's many copula in Picto-Han, but the main ones are the ones identifying something as a distinct thing, another for giving some kind of overall quality that thing has, and another for what state it's in. If anything comes after the identity one, we can assume it's an object, place, or person. If anything comes after the quality one, we can assume it's, well, a quality. This is about the type of concept, but we can also assume what grammatical role a word takes. There is no distinction between verbs, nouns, adjectives, etc. It all depends on how you use the word in a sentence. That said, there is a default assumed word class, typically a verb. There are some special ones that are functional adverbs and prepositions and the like, and which do not need to be marked in any way. Another neat feature is that for shorthand, there is a system of functional diacritic markers present. They can either go at the top of the characters or at the side sandwiched between them. These can mark things like future tense, what base classifier it has, relationships between words like of or towards, where new clauses start, or mark adjectives and adverbs without needing to use a whole character. Of course, this does make it harder to read. And because it is diacritics, Picto-Han actually may or may not employ varied sizes of spaces and have blocks be misaligned from one another, something that does not happen in Chinese or Japanese. There's one medium level of detail version with 16 diacritics and one high level of detail version for up close with a whopping 118. The essential detail one has 2 optional ones and 3 lines that are part of the characters themselves instead of outside of them. In terms of word order, Picto-Han base word order is intentionally the same as English and Chinese. The subject, verb, object word order, the overall structure of the prepositions, heading phrases which combine into a clause, and the fact that it relies on standalone function words more, those kind of features are the same. But there's also a lot that's structurally different and a lot of different usages of function words. The base structure of Picto-Han goes as follows. The things that mark things or give context or are broader go first. Specifying things go later. Words modifying other words, however, are placed before the next character, so watch out there. They also start with the character first, then the modifier, like the Chinese duh. So big cat is like Chinese big adjective modifier cat. This is not the case for nouns modifying nouns. They still start with the most fundamental thing something is. So mom of Stacy, not Stacy's mom. Sentences can actually have the base structure as well through various linkers. Linking words will have a line at the top and can either be placed at the start to mark something or at the end to link it to something else. Around these can be other surrounding characters. These are typically discourse markers that mark the information structure of the conversation, like actually, do you know, or interjections and exclamations, like aha, oh, or I see, or right. These may be entirely composite phrases or set phrases, but generic ones are single characters, starting with entering for discourse markers, and either mouth or sometimes interjection for, well, interjections. Within a sentence are phrases headed by relationship marking characters, just like English prepositions or Japanese particles, which put it after the word. These phrases have a default order of priority. Spaces, for example, come before time. So you're supposed to say, at home today, me ate sandwich. Not me ate sandwich today at home. Unless there are several spots where you can place things in a sentence. These influence the roles they play. The main part sits in the middle. It is where you state what the thing is being or doing in a sentence is being or doing. The order is subject, indirect object, verb, object. Like Chinese. English would place the indirect object elsewhere. If you place something behind the main part, it will be the contextualizing part. It sets a setting of sort that the rest takes place, such as today at the park, after 5 years, or by train, etc. It is common for English to place this after the main part, so beware. Within the main part, like English, we can place helper verbs in front of the main verb. You can string these together. If you place something after the main part, it becomes either something that specifies more info, a secondary subordinate main part of sorts, or something that gives some kind of conclusion. Peculiar, that is, we can place something in the main spot in between the indirect object and the verb. When we do this, it becomes as if it's the main part of the thing someone's doing or being. Indirect objects sit here by default. I to my friend give letter means you're describing the very act of giving a letter to your friend. However, we can actually place it in a contextualizing part. The to my friend part just sets things up or marks a topic of sorts. It gives extra context for the letter or what the letter applies to. If I'd say, I gave the letter to my friend, now it's more like it's specifying that to your friend and that it's properly working together with the main part. It's not part of the main action itself, but it is more important information than just giving context or a topic, and specifies to who I gave something with more attention placed on it. In Picto-Han, it is very common for things to be placed in this indirect object adjacent position, or English would not. This is the bulk of the odd word order you'll find in this language. I ran over there may become me towards their run, if emphasizing a specific act, but over there may run, if contextualizing. Then, the default priority of phrases may also sound strange to someone as it's not exactly the same and less flexible. Of course, while unlike English there are no a or the or constant uses of plurals or no inverting of word order when someone's asking a question, it did borrow a fuck ton of pronouns. Just not all of them. Pronouns are dropped more often than in English if clear from the context, but not as often as Chinese or Japanese. Specific grammar constructions may work differently, such as the ways you can structure X is here or here is X, presence constructions, or passive constructions, not using to be or is. Compound sentences are too complex to discuss, but there's two structures more common in Picto-Han and English. One is to create a heading phrase that does not have to be complete. It can be one character. It might just be asking, what is pizza? Commanding, eat your breakfast. Thinking, you're nice. Otherwise, like Chinese and Japanese, topic common structures are more common than in English. Subordinate clauses in a sentence are also often shortened. You may say, I like Clara because nice, rather than I like Clara because she is nice. So that's all fine and dandy, but what's it like? What differences does it end up making? Well, because it's all meaning components and works as a written language with one character per idea, anyone of any language can learn the character separate from the sounds they know, as long as they have working eyes. With Chinese, this effect also happens a bit, but due to sound components, it works best for speakers of Chinese, the Sino-Tibetan language families, or languages with loaned vocab from them like Japanese, Vietnamese, and Korean. Because there are no sound components and meaning components are relatively stable, it is quite easy to remember to recognize characters you learn if you already know their components. However, it also means that the average character gets denser, and there are 0 pronunciation clues present. It gets bigger because normally they can use a small set of meaning components with more specific sound components, and neither have to make perfect sense. It also means that a lot of characters require shortened forms or meta-associations with other characters, which are more difficult. Components then also have a wider range of associated meanings than singular characters from their usage. There are simply more characters with more lines and density. The stroke count, which only counts how often you lift the pen, goes from like 12 on average to like 15, I estimate. Compound words in Picto-Han without diacritics are longer. However, the most common basic general use and broad concepts are all just 1 character in size, while a lot of those equivalents are 2 in Chinese. This makes it balance out. Often Picto-Han takes less characters, but the characters need to be displayed a bit bigger before you can see everything, or you need to look closer. Reading Picto-Han is interesting because you process it in neat big chunks, all of the same size, read all at once. As all general concepts are represented as distinct singular characters, the language does wonders for disambiguating the base underlying concepts of vocabulary of English and finding equivalents to them in the languages you want to learn. As sound is irrelevant to the meaning itself, and there's way more symbols than specific characters, it's processed a bit differently. You translate the character to some sound you already know in your language, not the letter or word shape to a sound to a meaning. The bulk of the processing is spent on recognizing a plethora of symbols rather than recognizing strings of small sets of symbols. It evens out eventually, but the experience is just different. 1 character should correspond to about 4 to 8 characters of English across 2 rows. So far, I've made some of them too big. I now aim for Picto-Han to work with 16 by 16 pixel blocks of 1 pixel thickness. By the way, I had a font in the works for like 6,000 characters you can type with an IME, but it doesn't work on small sizes and looks very distorted due to the way I made it. And then my laptop hard drive died, losing like lots of progress, and I still don't have it back, so I'm relying on my own writing more right now. And that's about everything I have to say. If you want to learn more about my sweet little language, then you'll see a few more videos coming about it soon. I might make a more long-form, detailed introduction as well. Take care. And remember, there's no need not to try as long as you can DIY.